We already spent yesterday me ranting about the Kansas City Chiefs and how I feel like they are not the team that everybody is just willing to concede that they are. Their reputation is that of the current dynasty and the best team in the NFL, but if you actually objectively look at them, they have not played up to that standard at all this year. And I stand on that. What I saw last night, even though I jinxed the Bucks, was the best team in the NFL. I don't care about record. I care about how are you playing, and do you do something, and this is true about all great teams can do something that's pretty much unstoppable. If you look at the great passing teams in NFL history, it's quarterback to a certain receiver combination that, yeah, play whatever defense you want, yeah, have whatever strategy lined up, but you just couldn't truly stop the greats like Tom Brady to Randy Moss, Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison, these teams that just had something that were so unstoppable. And we have another one that is currently actively playing in the NFL, and that is the Baltimore Ravens and their run game. There is nothing you can do schematically, nothing you can do with a system that just, you cannot stop what is currently Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and this Baltimore run game. So much so that you can say whatever you want about Lamar as the passer. They are so dominant running the ball that you have to overcommit. He creates his own one-on-one situations because you can't double team any receiver on there. If you double team a guy, that means less men in the box, and then Derrick Henry runs on you for 150 yards a game. They are outrunning teams by 150 yards. And oh yeah, by the way, that game last night, Lamar throws for 5 touchdowns to show you he is not only the best dual threat quarterback in the NFL currently, he has an argument to the best dual threat quarterback of all time. And right now, and I know this sounds sacrilegious because Mahomes' resume is the best we've ever seen through 7 years, but right now, Lamar Jackson is the best player in the National Football League, and the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the National Football League. Again, it does not matter what you scheme up as a defensive coordinator. You cannot scheme up, how do I hit when they block a certain way and Derrick Henry's one-on-one with a linebacker or a safety who just cannot bring him down. And then we see this once a game, Derrick Henry just breaks out for this big 60, 70-yard run. That's not normal. That's not something that has ever been sustainable in the NFL. But all-time greats do things that have not been sustainable and or not normal. I just got this before the show started. I want to read this off. Tony sent this. This is rushing leaders since 2018. Top guys. Derrick Henry, 9,885 yards. Derrick Henry after contact, 7,028 yards. Third is Nick Chubb with 6,533. He has more yards after contact than the next closest guy has total yards. There has been 7 games in NFL history where a quarterback has 5 touchdowns and 50 rushing yards. Lamar has 3 of them. There's been 6 games where a quarterback has that many touchdowns, 4 or more, and that many touchdowns as completions. Lamar's got 4 of them. What the Baltimore Ravens are currently doing, yes, their defense, it needs to be better. But here's the thing. Their defense, because we are so used to Baltimore throughout its history, from Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Haloti Ngata, and even last year, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, we're used to them always having this dominant, this just incredible defense. That's a part of their culture. That's a part of the history of the team. You couldn't before this year say Ravens without thinking great defense. But the reality is, you play like your best players. There's a reason why you don't see there's only a handful of teams in NFL history that have had all-time great offenses and all-time great defenses at the same time. You play to your best players. And the Ravens' best players right now, they're on offense. Lamar, Henry, their offensive line. Kyle Hamilton, great player. Roquan Smith, great player. Marlon Humphreys on the downside of his career. They are playing a more fast, electric style of offense, which is weird coming from that franchise. We've never seen it before. It's rare to see, again, you don't see continued stretches of both dominance offensively and defensively. It just does not happen for prolonged periods of times. I go back to Denver, as I do with most things. 2013, most points ever scored in NFL history. Lose the Super Bowl. By 2015, when they win the Super Bowl, the offense was below average at best. The defense was the best in the league. That 2013 team that scored all those points, the defense was below average at best. So these teams, they reflect the way that their best players are. It changes the culture. When your best player is a quarterback versus when your best player is a middle linebacker or a safety, it changes the culture and the nature of the team. But that team right there, again, Tampa gets up 10-0, and this is how you really know, and Tampa's a good team. I said this yesterday. Tampa's a really good team. They have one of the best wins in the NFL this year, going into Detroit, winning that game. And I said this live on air yesterday. If Tampa also were to beat the Ravens, you've got to call Tampa a top 10 team because they would have beaten Baltimore and Detroit. And at the time I said that, it was 10-0. It got out of control. Baltimore scored 20-plus unanswered. Lamar was throwing everywhere, running everywhere. They could do whatever they wanted. And I know the immediate response is, well, they lost to Kansas City in week 1. Look, the game they play, by the time the season really gets into form, most week 1 games, you just got to throw out. I know we're all excited. We waited all offseason for football. We're all like, oh, it's here. Let's go. But the reality is who a team is in week 1 is not who they're going to be in week 10, week 15, come the playoffs. It's just almost never true. So that team that played in week 1, when Lamar and Derrick Henry did not have near the chemistry, it was kind of unfair emotionally because this was the team that had just ended their season the season prior. You're going to their place. You're seeing the banner that they raised up that you feel like you should have had because you feel like you were the better team all last year. There's a lot of factors that went into that week 1 game. But if you ask me right now, play Ravens, Chiefs play, I don't care where they play. In Baltimore, in Kansas City, neutral field, the Baltimore Ravens are the better team. And Lamar Jackson is putting himself in that rarefied air. He is playing like the MVP again. And if he gets 3 of them, we have to start shedding this conversation of dual threat quarterback, which has been unfortunately maligned due to both stylistically and racially. We need to start acknowledging Lamar Jackson, not just as one of the best running quarterbacks ever, not just as one of the best dual threat quarterbacks ever. No, Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks we have ever seen play in the National Football League. Transitioning from the NFL to a sport that I love, the NBA has a problem, man. The NBA season starts tonight. The NBA season openers, even baseball, people are over the moon and excited for the beginning of Major League Baseball season. And that's a 162-game season. Game 1 means this much. But you're supposed to be excited for the season openers. And what are we supposed to be excited about? What has been the news cycle around the NBA the last couple of months? Well, LeBron's going to play with his son. That's exciting. We're going to get some horrible internet takes because of Bronny's debut. Paul George went to a new team, but now he's injured. Joel Embiid, still injured. I don't know when he got injured. He was playing in the Olympics, so now he's going to be out the first week of the season. We should be excited about Wemby, but I didn't hear from him all off season. The NBA, and I think this is across all 4 sports, but I think right now the NBA has a commissioner problem. And that's, these guys are running the league, and the reality is when you let certain stars run the league, and this current era of superstars, not the young guys, but this current era of superstars are used to this load management. That's the term we all popularized. The problem with load management is I think its origins have been totally misconstrued. People used to blame Greg Popovich and say, oh, he had stars missing, sitting out primetime games. They were missing the TNT games. They were missing the ABC games. But that wasn't really a problem because by the time he had did that, Tim Duncan was already well over a decade into his career. We had a decade of watching Tim Duncan go in go play every single night. We had a decade of seeing Parker play. We had a decade of seeing Ginobili play. Some of these guys who are the current superstars, like a Joel Embiid, you are never going to see play a full season. And the international guys don't market themselves. Jokic, once the season is over, he leaves. Wemby, it felt like the same thing. He's one of the biggest up-and-coming superstars in the league, the 7'5" French phenom. We don't hear from him. I didn't hear from the SGA. Like, these international guys don't care to be in the media the way the American stars prior to them wanted to be. And so they've been given all the power, they've been given all the fame, and they just walk away. They don't promote themselves. If you give anyone responsibility, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Because the naturally responsible people, you know, when the NBA basically handed over its marketing to Mike, it was perfect because Mike was a personality. The shoe deal, when they gave it to Shaq was this huge personality. When Kobe had it, when LeBron had it, these guys almost self-marketed themselves. The NBA does not market its current stars. It definitely doesn't market its future stars. And the international guys just don't care. So we're starting an NBA season, and what do we got? More injured stars. The Warriors, it's just Steph. I got the Mavericks just made the finals, had one of their best seasons in a decade. I didn't hear anything or see anything about Luke all offseason. I didn't hear or see anything about Kyrie all offseason. The Celtics won a title. I talked about this a few weeks ago. They're one of the things who are the most least talked about sports topics, and they're the defending NBA champions. I love basketball. I love the NBA. But you cannot, your season opener, there's a handful of things that people should just naturally be excited for. And your season opener is one of them. I remember being beyond excited coming home from school, seeing guys walking down the tunnel for the first time on TNT. And it's only going to get worse because as they transition, there's far more international stars who aren't going to just magically flick this switch and start going, oh, I want to be in the media. I want to be in the front page. We're losing inside the NBA, which, however you feel about them, you can't deny their impact on the media part of the game and the importance of it. Like, the stars that we've relied on, the NBA has relied on for years, LeBron, KD, Steph, these guys are transitioning out. Again, Giannis leaves once the season's over. Jokic leaves once the season's over. Luka leaves once the season's over. Like, you know what the NBA has done? You know what the most marketed thing we've seen with the NBA is? We just got the Ant Edwards and Justin Jefferson recreating the iconic photo from KG and Randy Moss. Like, I love the NBA, but I'm going to be fair. I give baseball a lot of shit for not being able to market its stars despite how much talent exists currently in Major League Baseball. And that same thing needs to apply to the NBA. You have all this talent, and was the NBA just that dependent on LeBron? Was it just that dependent on Steph? You got to transition. The good leagues do. The NFL, this is why the NFL, even though the NFL, you could argue its product, no one wants to hear this, but the NFL's product, you could argue, is as bad as it's been in a while. And they're still going to do numbers, and they're still king of the sports world because they move on, they market, they promote the next guy. Tom Brady retires, boom, move on. Peyton Manning retires, boom, we move on. Aaron Rodgers is no longer good, don't worry, we got CJ Stroud. They are always ready for the next guy.